The Killers by Ernest Hemingway. Ernest Hemingway was born between 1899 and 1961. His style of writing is known as simplistic and straight to the point. His style of writing is now called the Hemingway style. With this type of style, we see in a lot of his stories that he really does just get to the point of his story. He doesn't add any little details that he believes is unnecessary. Throughout The Killers, we can definitely see this, and we can also see a reoccurring character that he uses in a lot of his stories, Nick Adams. Once again, this is The Killers by Ernest Hemingway. The door of Henry's lunchroom opened and two men came in. They sat down at the counter. "What's yours?" George asked them. "I don't know. What do you want to eat, Al?" "I don't know. I don't know what I want to eat." Outside, it was getting darker. From the other end of the counter, Nick Adams watched them. He had been talking to George when they came in. "I'll have a roast pork tenderloin with applesauce and mashed potatoes," the first man said. "It isn't ready yet." "What the hell did you put on the card for?" "That's the dinner," George explained. "You can get that at 6 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock now." "The clock says 20 minutes past 5. "It's 20 minutes past." "Oh, to hell with the clock. What have you got to eat?" "I can give you any kind of sandwiches. You can have ham and eggs, bacon and eggs, liver and bacon, or a steak." "Give me a chicken with green peas, cream sauce, and mashed potatoes." "That's the dinner." "Everything we want's the dinner, eh?" "That's the way you work it." "I can give you ham and eggs, bacon and eggs, liver." "I'll take the ham and eggs." "Give me the bacon and eggs." Both wore overcoats too tight for them. They sat leaning forward, their elbows on the counter. "You're a pretty bright boy, aren't you?" "Sure." "Well, you aren't. Is he, Al?" "He's dumb," said Al. He turned to Nick. "What's your name?" "Adams." "Another bright boy. Ain't he a bright boy, Max?" "The town's full of bright boys." George put the two platters, one of ham and eggs, the other of bacon eggs, on the counter. He set down two side dishes of fried potatoes and closed the wicket in the kitchen. "Just a bright boy," Max said. He leaned forward and took the ham and eggs. Both men ate with their gloves, and George watched them eat. "Hey, bright boy," Max said to Nick. "You go around the other side of the counter with your boyfriend." "What's the idea?" Nick asked. "There isn't any idea." "You better go, bright boy," Al said. Nick went around behind the corner to the counter. "What's the idea?" "None of your damn business," Al said. "Who's out in the kitchen?" "The cook." "Tell him to come in." "What are you going to do to him?" "Nothing. Use your head, bright boy." George opened the slit that opened back into the kitchen. "Sam," he called. "Come in here a minute." The door to the kitchen opened, and Sam came in. "What was it?" he asked. The two men at the counter took a look at him. "All right, cook. You stand right there," Al said. "Yes, sir," he said. Al got down from his stool. "I'm going back to the kitchen with the cook and the bright boy," he said. "Go on back to the kitchen. You go with him, bright boy." "Well, bright boy," Max said to George, "why don't you say something?" "What's it all about?" "Hey, Al, bright boy wants to know what it's all about." "I can hear you all right," Al said from the kitchen. "Listen, bright boy," he said from the kitchen to George. "Stand a little further along the bar. You move a little to the left, Max." He was like a photographer arranging for a group picture. "I'll tell you," Max said. We're gonna kill a Swede. Do you know a big Swede named Old Anderson? Yes. He comes to eat here every night, don't he? Sometimes he comes around. He comes here at 6 o'clock, don't he? If he comes. We all know that, bright boy. What are you going to kill old Anderson for? What did he ever do to you? We're killing him for a friend. Just to oblige a friend, bright boy. Shut up, said Al from the kitchen. You talk too goddamn much. Well, I gotta keep bright boy amused, don't I, bright boy? You talk too damn much, Al said. The cook and my bright boy are amused by themselves. I got them tied up. At 6:55, George said. He's not coming. Your friend, old Anderson, isn't going to come. We'll give him 10 minutes, Max said. Max watched the mirror and the clock. The hands of the clock marked 7 o'clock, and then 5 minutes past 7. Come on, Al, said Max. We better go. He's not coming. What about the 2 bright boys and the cook? They're all right. You think so? Sure, we're through with it. Al came out of the kitchen. The cut-off barrels of the shotgun made a slight bulge under the waist of his two-tone fitting overcoat. He straightened his coat with his gloved hands. So long, bright boy, he said to George. You got out of luck. The two of them went out the door. George watched them through the window. George went back into the kitchen and untied Nick and the cook. I don't want any more of that, said Sam, the cook. I don't want any more of that. Nick stood up. What the hell? They were going to kill old Anderson, George said. They were going to shoot him when he came in to eat. They all gone, he asked. Yes, said George. They're all gone on. Listen, George said to Nick. You better go see old Anderson. All right, Nick said. I'll go see him, Nick said to George. Where does he live? He lives up Hirsch rooming house, George said to Nick. I'll go up there. Nick walked up 2 steps and pushed the bell. A woman came to the door. Is old Anderson here? Do you want to see him? Yes, if he's in. Nick followed the woman up a flight of stairs and back to the end of the corridor. She knocked on the door. Who is it? It's somebody to see you, Mr. Anderson, the woman said. It's Nick Adams. Come in. Nick opened the door and went to the room. Old Anderson was lying on the bed with all his clothes on. What was it, he asked. I was up at Henry's, Nick said, and 2 fellows came in and tied up me and the cook, and they said they were going to kill you. It sounded silly when he said it. Old Anderson said nothing. They put us out in the kitchen, Nick went on. They were going to shoot you when you came into the supper. Old Anderson looked at the wall. It did not say anything. George thought I'd better come and tell you. There isn't anything I can do, old Anderson said. Nick looked at the big man lying on the bed. Don't you want me to go to the police? No, old Anderson said. That wouldn't do any good. Isn't there something I could do? No, there ain't anything you could do. Old Anderson rolled over towards the wall. I'd better go back and see George, Nick said. So long, said old Anderson. He did not look towards Nick. Thanks for coming. Nick went out. As he shut the door, he saw old Anderson with all his clothes on, lying on the bed, looking at the wall.